Translator, Neentales. Editor, Fish Creek. Within Qin Mu's squad, aside from himself holding the post of Imperial Academician, there was not a single directorate present. Gu Linyuan's reasoning was that since Qin Mu wore the rank of Imperial Academician and occupied a lofty official seat, he ought to command a team on his own. The scholars assigned under Qin Mu could be said to have been deliberately picked, the finest among scholars' residents. Yet compared with those scholars chosen from Royalty's Park and Divine Arts residents, they were still far, far behind. In Imperial College, where the strongest practitioners could be found everywhere, experts were never scarce. For Gu Linyuan to make Qin Mu lead a team for experience was plainly the act of using public office to settle a personal grudge. The scholars accompanying Qin Mu to the front lines were all familiar faces. They were Chen Wanyun, Monk Yun Kuei, Yue Qinghong, who brought Wolfslave along, Si Yunxiang, and lastly, Qin Yu. However, since Qin Yu belonged to the younger generation of the capital city's Qin family and possessed deep backing, he went to speak a word to Gu Linyuan. Thus, he was shifted from Qin Mu's team to another team led by a directorate, thereby steering clear of Qin Mu's certain death squad. Qin Mu finished refining a furnace's worth of Scarlet Fire spirit pills and stretched his limbs. These past few days, he had been refining pills to make sure the dragon Qilin would have enough to eat once they reached the front lines, and so he had no time to meet with those few scholars. Monk Yun Kuei sought out Chen Wanyun and Yue Qinghong to confer in low voices. This time, Grand Chancellor is having Academician Qin bring us out for experience, and to a place of chaos. I reckon we won't return and will surely die. Our team doesn't even have a divine arts practitioner. Chen Wanyun shook his head. We do. The few of them all looked toward him. Chen Wanyun gave a faint smile. These few days, I've been suppressing my realm so you all could rest easy. I can break through at any time and become a divine arts practitioner of the Six Directions realm. Yue Qinghong said, I've heard the rebel sects have already begun to gather toward the south, wanting to wipe out Eternal Peace Empire's power in the south completely. Many sects that were active near the capital have vanished without a trace. For instance, Dragon Rider sect has already moved south. Now the south of Surging River is entirely rebel territory. With all the rebel sects gathered there, how many divine arts practitioners will there be? With you as the only divine arts practitioner, there's absolutely no use. Chen Wanyun knitted his brows. Academician Qin's Jianghu experience is far too shallow. He's too young. How many times has he travelled the martial world? With him leading us, everything points to calamity. No matter how high my cultivation is, I'd still be powerless. Junior Sister Si, you haven't spoken. What's your view on this? Si Yunxiang smiled shyly and said nothing. Everyone fell into silence. Monk Yun Kuei let out a long sigh. Better that we each choose one or two divine arts for escaping from the floor of heavenly records. It might come in handy. At last, the day of departure arrived. Before the Hall of Supreme Learning, a few hundred scholars assembled, and the directorates inspected their respective teams. One flying ship after another descended and landed in front of the Hall of Supreme Learning. The directorates then led their teams to board their own ships. Academician Qin, didn't you hire a ship? Gu Linyuan strolled over, beaming. This journey is quite far. If you were to go on foot, you'd need 10 days and more. You're an Imperial Academician. Don't tell me you can't even bear to spend this little money. Qin Mu smiled, calm and composed. Thank you, Grand Chancellor, for troubling yourself over our matter. I have nothing but money. Therefore I've hired a swift ship at a high price. It will arrive very soon. The ship's furnace was forged by me. It's very fast. Chen Wanyun and the rest exchanged glances and thought, he really is petty. He even made the furnace himself. I reckon it's some tiny craft. Still, he actually knows how to forge artifacts. He's never been to the Hall of Divine Craft, so where did he learn forging? Within Imperial College there was the Hall of Divine Craft, where forging artifacts and treasures was taught. The directorates of the Hall of Divine Craft also held official posts in the Imperial Court. The supervisors of the shipyards and the armament manufacturers were positions the directorates of the Hall of Divine Craft must assume. Ever since Qin Mu entered Imperial College, he had not even set foot in the Hall of Divine Craft once. Therefore it was impossible for him to have learned any forging knowledge there. Not long after, the ships rose into the air one after another and departed Imperial College on their own. Monk Yun Ki and the rest grew anxious as they waited. Then suddenly they saw a battered, dilapidated ship wobbling through the sky and landing shakily before the Hall of Supreme Learning. "Our ship is here," Qin Mu smiled. Chen Wanyun, Yun Ke and Yue Qinghong all frowned deeply. The ship was riddled with holes, with air leaking from everywhere. Moreover, its mast was broken too, and there wasn't even a sail. A burly man with bare arms appeared aboard the ship, a fierce look on his face. At a glance they knew he wasn't a good sort. Tattoos covered him, and he waved at Qin Mu while laughing. "Old brother Qin, I'm late! I'm late!" Qin Mu brought Hu Linga and the dragon Qilin forward with a smile. "It's fine, even if you're 1 or 2 days late. What happened to your ship? It was still fine the last time I saw you. How did it become like this in just a few days?" "Don't mention it. I took another run and ran into those bitches from Three Wonders Castle again. They released their insects to harm me, but my speed was too fast, so we crashed straight into the swarm and nearly turned my treasure ship into a sieve." Fan Yunxiao chuckled as he looked at Chen Wanyun and the others. "Scholars, when you become officials in the future, please take care of me. I've turned good recently." Yun Ke muttered, "With this ship so dilapidated, will it fall apart once we fly into the air?" Qin Mu held the same doubts. This cloud-chasing pirate ship was simply too worn out, looking as though it could come apart at any moment. "It won't. It won't." Fan Yunxiao thumped his chest hard in assurance. "My brother's already used runes to reinforce the ship's body. It's extremely durable. Old brother Qin, when you're free, can you help me forge an iron shell ship? Help me refine 2 more furnaces and use black iron to forge the hull. Wood is simply too brittle." Qin Mu pondered briefly, then replied, "That would require a rather high price. Black iron alone is a huge expense. Can you produce that much money? Furthermore, do you have the blueprints?" Fan Yunxiao rubbed his hands vigorously and said, "After robbing everywhere these past few days, two. After doing business everywhere, I've saved quite a sum. If I gather all my property, it should be enough to make an iron shell ship. As for the blueprints, those won't be easy to obtain. Everyone, board the ship first. We'll talk after we're aboard." Everyone boarded the ship, and Yue Qinghong looked around. The crew were all covered in tattoos and looked fierce. Some even bore scars, and some were missing a nose or an eye. Malicious aura seeped from their bodies. They clearly didn't look like good people. This tattered ship slowly rose into the sky and, like an old bull hauling a broken cart, crawled out of the capital city. Seeing this, everyone felt even more dejected. Chen Wanyun whispered, "The people on this ship aren't good men. They're villainous robbers with extremely high abilities. Most of them are divine arts practitioners. Academician Qin's experience in the martial world is shallow. I reckon he must have fallen into a bandit's trap. We must be careful on this journey, so we won't be robbed." Just as he spoke, the dilapidated ship suddenly surged in speed, giving off a mournful whoosh as it tore through the air. Violent tremors followed, as the ship's speed exceeded the speed of sound, crossing miles in an instant. Several barrels of wine were flung away and burst mid-air as they were smashed by the airflow. Everyone immediately steadied themselves and stared about in alarm. They saw that this broken ship swiftly overtook all the ships that had departed earlier, leaving them far behind. The speed of this ship was beyond imagination. With such speed, they could reach Surging River in only a day or 2. Qin Mu was long accustomed to it. After all, he was the one who had forged the furnace, so there was no need for astonishment. It's fine. It won't fall apart." Fan Yunxiao consoled everyone. "I originally thought it would fall apart too, but after ferrying passengers for a few trips, it never has. It likely won't fall apart this time either." Whoosh! A piece of deckboard was ripped up by the gales and shot backward with a whoosh. Fan Yunxiao brimmed with confidence. "Don't worry, it won't fall apart. Second brother, bring up a deck. Bring one more up. Another one got blown away. Relax, I'm experienced." Suddenly, the ship passed through a rainy region. It was pouring there. As the ship pierced the downpour, Fan Yunxiao's body turned all colourful. Hu Linga cried out in astonishment, "Old Xiao, your tattoos got washed off by the rain." The other bandits on the cloud-chasing pirate ship also had their tattoos smeared by the rain, and there was even a mate who shouted, "Big brother, my scar got washed off by the rain." Fan Yunxiao was a little embarrassed and said, "When we disembark later, we can find painters to paint them back on. But we've all turned good now. It seems there's no need to paint tattoos anymore. Second brother, take off your eye patch. See, you've frightened those few scholars." The second mate removed his eye patch and revealed a perfectly fine eye. Monk Yun Kei muttered, "The appearance of these bandits doesn't look too reliable." However, Qin Mu was very close to the bandit chief and took out a computational cannon to consult Fan Yunxiao. Hu Linga pulled out a handkerchief and wiped the dragon head on Fan Yunxiao's back, and the dragon head instantly vanished. "Fox, stop fooling around." Fan Yunxiao waved his hand. Hu Linga pursed her lips. "I thought they were real tattoos, so they were painted on." Fan Yunxiao gave a dry laugh and muttered, "How painful would that be? Our bodies, hair and skin are given to us by our parents. How can we casually draw on them?" Qin Mu said, "Senior Brother Fan, the Shi Bai Qian Wan in the computational canon of Supreme Mystery are not a problem. However, Yi, Jiao, Jing, Gai, Zi, Rang, Go, Jian, Zheng, Jai, these numerals are truly too enormous. What are they used to calculate? Is there really a need for such huge numerals?" I also asked Dao Master before, and Dao Master said they were used for immeasurable calculation. Fan Yunxiao said between 1 and Yi is the Wan system. 1 becomes Yi. After Yi comes the Yi system. Yi becomes Jiao. Yi Jiao becomes Jing. Yi Jing becomes Gai. Besides that, there's also no end to division. What comes after a single number is Fen, Li, Hao, Si Hu, Wei, Xian, Xia, Chen, Ai, Miao, Mo, Mo Hu, Kun Shun, Shun Shi, Tan Ji, Chan Al Li, Kong Shu, Jing Jing. Those are decimals. Fen is 1/10, Li is 100th, and so on. Qin Mu was astonished and asked, "Then what are Kong Shu and Qing Jing used to calculate?" "To calculate the smallest particle in vital qi." Fan Yunxiao continued, "The 14th writing of Dao Sword requires runes to be imprinted into the smallest particles of vital qi. Without calculation, it was impossible to cultivate it." Qin Mu was dumbstruck. His head ached as he stared at the computational canon of Supreme Mystery. If you forge all kinds of treasures, you also need to use these calculations, and the slightest error could lead to a world of difference. Qin Mu acknowledged and exclaimed in admiration, "Dao Sect's attainment in algebra truly is extraordinary." He asked with sincere intent, and Fan Yunxiao told him everything he knew. Fan Yunxiao had already cultivated to Dao Sect's 5th writing and had extremely high attainment in algebra. Yi, 100 million, Zhao, 1 trillion, Jing, 10 quadrillion, Gai, 100 quintillion, Zi, 1 septillion, 10 octillion, Go, 100 nonillion, 1 undecillion, Zheng, 10 duodecillion, 100 tredecillion, Ji, 1 quindecillion. Fen, 1/10, Li, 1/100th, Hao Hao, 1,000th, Si, 10,000th, Hu, 100,000th, Wei, 1/1,000,000th, Sa, 100,000,000th, Chen, 1/1000,000th, Ai, 10/1000,000th, Miao, 100/1000,000th, Mo, 1/10,000,000,000th, Mohu, 100,000,000,000th, Shuju, 1/quadrillionth, Sun Si, 10/quadrillionth, 100/quadrillionth, Chana, 1/quintillionth, Luther, 10/quintillionth, Kong Shu, 100/quintillionth, Qing Jing, 1/sextillionth. Translator, Nine Tails. Editor, Fish Creek. The cloud-chasing pirate ship cleaved flying for more than a day before it finally came upon the surging river. The great vessel glided forward and made for the encampments laid out along the southern bank. Lizhou Prefecture had mustered a vast host beside the waters. Along the river, more than 200 camps were linked like a chain of iron, soldiers and war horses filling the shores in endless ranks. By the time they arrived, a savage engagement had only just concluded. Warships still ran wild across the river's face. Some vessels had already been smashed to ruin, and thick smoke rolled upward from masts and decks that burned with furious flame. Corpses drifted upon the river surface. On the ships, soldiers cast wide fishing nets, hauling the dead from the water. Then they used hooked poles to catch the bodies and hang them at the stern, intending to drag them to shore and bury them afterward. Qin Mu opened his green heaven's eyes and stared across to the opposite bank. A broken, dilapidated city lay there, and sporadic clashes still flashed within, rays of divine arts bursting forth in every hue. However, these were only scattered skirmishes. It ought to be the eternal peace Empire's army sweeping through the city to finish off what enemies remained. Fan Yunxiao slowed the ship, and the pirate vessel gradually descended toward the camp. A soldier flew up to make inquiries. When he learned they were scholars from Imperial College, he immediately waved his banner, signaling the archers below to lower their bows and arrows. The ship settled into the camp. Fan Yunxiao watched the intermittent fighting on the far shore with one black eye and one white eye. Then he swept his gaze over Chen Wanyun, Yun Kuei, and the others before shaking his head. "Old brother Qin, these scholars will only drag you down and be of no real use. In a battle of this scale, the few of you scholars can do nothing at all, and it will be hard for you to survive. I'm leaving. When I find enough black iron and the blueprint of the treasure ship, I'll come find you again." When he finished speaking, he had the bandits aboard activate the furnace, and the ship soared away. Yun Kuei and the rest felt their spirits sink. Chen Wanyun sneered. "This person's ability isn't bad, but there's a problem with his judgment." A general strode over and asked, "Are you scholars from Imperial College?" Qin Mu nodded and said, "Is Lizhou Prefecture young magistrate at the front lines? May I trouble you to inform her? Just tell her Riverdike County Qin Mu requests for a meeting." The general was startled and dared not slight his words. He hurried off at once. Not long after, the clanking of armor rang out. Everyone turned toward the sound and saw a female general in full armor striding over, a helmet tucked beneath her arm. She carried herself with heroic spirit, and her features were astonishingly beautiful. The powder on her face, the line of her brows, and her red lips were unforgettable. She looked as though she had just returned from the battlefield. Bloodstains still marked her body. "So it's little brother Qin Mu." Yu Yuan Chuyu's gaze fell on Qin Mu and her eyes brightened. "The little brother who walked out of Riverdike County a few months ago has made a name for himself. I've heard my elder brother mention you, and now you're considered to have stood above others. I'm happy for you as well." "Big sister, you flatter me." Qin Mu blushed in shame and said, "I didn't tell Big Sister before that I was actually from Great Ruins." Yu Yuan Chuyu said, "When you left, I was still wondering when there was a Qin family in Riverdike County that could raise such an outstanding child. My elder brother later sent a letter and mentioned you, and only then did I learn you were from Great Ruins." Yun Kuei, Yue Qinghong, and the others were secretly astonished. Lizhou Prefecture was the place where all imperial scholars lodged when they came out for experience. Never had they imagined Qin Mu was actually well acquainted with Lizhou Prefecture. Young magistrate. As a high official of such a place, she was already the commander of the borders. Moreover, Yu Yuan Chuyu's background was extraordinary. She had once been the princess of the fallen Yu Yuan Empire, and the other crown prince of Yu Yuan Empire was Yu Yuan Chuyu, who had become the great general in the capital city. Qin Mu was clearly an abandoned person of Great Ruins. How had he become affiliated with Yu Yuan Chuyu? "Big Sister Chuyu, what happened to Corpse Immortal Cult?" Qin Mu asked. "Corpse Immortal Cult has already been eradicated by me, but there are still some remnants that escaped to the southern borders." Yu Yuan Chuyu led them up to the city walls and said, "Rebel armies from everywhere have already gathered in the southern borders. Rebel sects from everywhere have also arrived. All kinds of forces meet and mingle here. The troops are stationed in every city along the river and keep strict watch. However, this is only the tip of the iceberg, and the current situation doesn't look good." "Tip of the iceberg?" Everyone was stunned for a moment. Yuan Chuyu smiled. "In the world today, do you know who is loyal and who is a traitor? For example, me. I'm the princess of the vanquished Yu Yuan Empire. How would you know I won't rebel the very next moment?" Chen Wanyun and the others broke into a cold sweat, fearing that this heroic female general might kill them in the next instant and declare her rebellion. Yuan Chuyu said indifferently, "The imperial court's ties to the old generation are too close. Imperial Preceptor wants to forge a brand new generation upon this foundation, but all he can ever rely on is the power of the old generation. His new generation can't break free of the old generation's influence. Therefore, who can say which sect or which official will rebel next? Monk Yun Kuei asked, shivering. But Lord Magistrate won't rebel, am I right? Yu Yuan Chuyu looked at him and gave a bone-chilling smile, speaking softly. You can guess. If you're right, you won't die. Yun Kuei's face turned ashen. He was scared witless. Yu Yuan Chuyu, as commander, had nurtured a vast grandeur about her. Though she was a woman, her icy expression could crush a person with terror. Yu Yuan Chuyu let out a gentle laugh and summoned a general over. After giving her instructions, the general immediately deployed an army of about 1,000 men. Yu Yuan Chuyu descended from the city halls and strode straight onto the river surface. Behind her, 1,000 soldiers also strode forward, stepping upon the river as they advanced toward the opposite shore. Qin Mu hurried to catch up and stood upon the river surface as well. Vital qi surged beneath his feet, holding him steady, and he smiled. Big sister, don't scare him. Chen Wanyun and the rest also rushed over, each circulating their own vital qi so they would not sink into the water. They could sprint over water, but to walk calmly upon it was somewhat strenuous. Aside from controlling the water, they also needed dense cultivation. Yu Yuan Chuyu showed a trace of interest. Little brother thinks I won't rebel against the imperial court. Qin Mu shook his head. Because this rebellion is a set-up by Imperial Preceptor to purge the Imperial Court and the common folk. Big Sister is wise and can see that clearly. If Big Sister were dumb, you would have rebelled long ago and wouldn't have waited until today. Yu Yuan Chuyu smiled. You're right, and you're also wrong. The reason I didn't rebel isn't because I was clever enough. Many people came to urge me to rebel. Every one of them arrived brimming with confidence, thinking they could surely make me rebel. Yet all of them were wrong. My Yu Yuan family doesn't value our royal position. We value our people of Yu Yuan. Back when Yu Yuan Empire still existed, Eternal Peace Empire had already become great, and they could wage war at any time. My father knew that if war broke out, the empire would certainly be ruined and the families would be torn apart. However, Imperial Preceptor came to Yu Yuan and discussed the path with my father. Back then, all the civil and military officials were present, and what they discussed was how to govern an empire and its people. My brother and I were also in the imperial court. Then we lost. Her expression remained calm as she said, We suffered a crushing defeat, one we accepted wholeheartedly, in the debate over the path of governing an empire and the path of the people's welfare. My father relinquished the title of emperor and wanted my elder brother to succeed him, but my elder brother refused and passed the title to me. She smiled. No one knew whether she mocked herself or whether it was sincere. I told Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor, I am inferior to you in governing an empire, and I am also inferior to you in caring for the people's welfare. In that case, I'll hand Yu Yuan Empire to you. If your governance and your people's welfare do not satisfy me, I will rebel against you in the future. Imperial Preceptor agreed and let me govern Yu Yuan, which is the current Lizhou. So that's how it is, everyone said as realization dawned. Hu Linga cried out in astonishment, Sister, so you were actually a female emperor. Yuan Chuyu smiled and said, Being a female emperor for a day, I can tell you it's no fun. If you want to be an emperor, you can just find any place and proclaim yourself emperor. The only problem is how many people you can hold jurisdiction over. She glanced at the billowing smoke and fire upon the river's surface and withdrew her gaze. Then she smiled at Chen Wanyun and the rest. It's your fortune that you can follow little brother. His abilities are very extraordinary. Yue Qinghong and Yun Kuei exchanged looks, not understanding how this female general could see Qin Mu's abilities as extraordinary. Yu Yuan Chuyu remembered the time she had discovered red corpse beetles scattered across an entire mountain north of Tiger Sun County. Besides the red corpse beetles, there had been a skeleton whose flesh and blood had melted away, leaving only bones and clothing. From the clothing, she could tell it had belonged to an expert of corpse immortal cult. Though she couldn't tell who this corpse immortal cult expert was, from the method of controlling the corpse beetles and the sheer quantity of them, that expert's cultivation had probably already reached 7 Stars realm. Corpse immortal cult specialized in corpses and poison, so their cultivation realm wasn't that high. But when one clashed with Corp's immortal cult, even those with higher cultivation and greater battle prowess would find it extremely difficult to defeat them. Yet that Corp's immortal cult expert had died from poison, and the one who poisoned him would have been this little brother beside her who looked honest and naive. Back then, this little brother had even deceived her, making her write a travel permit for him and recommend him to go to the capital city. In Yuan Chiyu's heart, for Chen Wanyun and the rest to follow such a crafty fellow out for experience would make them even safer than if they had followed the directorates. Thus she said it was their fortune. When they reached the opposite shore, buildings throughout the city had already collapsed, killing who knew how many people. Yuan Chiyu led the army into the city and said, "Just now I said this was only the tip of the iceberg. There's another reason as well. Look at this. Taking down Deer County was as easy as walking. We invaded and seized it without effort, so isn't the rebel army a little too weak?" Qin was slightly stunned. Enticing the enemies to enter deeply? This isn't only enticing the enemy in. The old foxes haven't even made their moves. Yu Yuanchu's gaze flickered. The three old monsters who injured Imperial Preceptor still haven't shown themselves. The old monsters of the old generation may not be only those three. There's Passion Parting Palace Master Chu Diei, the three castle lords of Three Wonders Castle, high officials who have rebelled, the Dragon King of Dragon Rider sect, as well as other powerful practitioners at the cult master level. And none of them have appeared yet. Other major and minor cult masters, sect masters, are all very quiet. Furthermore, her voice dropped low, who knows whether any gods from the old generation survived? Qin shuddered repeatedly. Chen Wanyun and the others also felt their blood run cold. Yu Yuanchuyu clearly knew many things about the old generation, but she didn't go deeper. You can rest at ease. These old monsters won't easily make a move against juniors like you. Their target is Imperial Preceptor and the first-ranking high officials of the Imperial Court. Deer County was seized by a sect not much bigger than Corp's immortal cult, called Nine Spectres Sect. Now that the rebellion in Deer County has just been quelled, there are still remnants of Nine Spectres Sect fleeing. I'll give you an easy task. Eradicate all the remnants. Her gaze shone sharply as it landed on Qin and the others. Nine Spectres Sect is skilled at dressing as gods and playing devils. They claim they can invite supernatural beings to assist them in battle. Therefore, you must make preparations. When the other scholars arrive, you will go forward and eradicate them.